Greeting and salutations from Brands Hatch. We are here in the UK and indeed we're being greeted by very British weather. Liquid sunshine as they call it here on the island, but we are psyched to be in Brands Hatch because of course since last year we're racing on the Grand Prix circuit and it's going to be very, very exciting. But first of course we need to get qualifying, so let's do it.
The number 11 BMW proving why he is a two-time DTM champion. His driving class was on a different level.
Well, hi everyone, a very good morning to you and welcome to Brands Hatch. What a day in prospect. And the weather throwing something of a curved ball into qualifying for this morning. That's for sure. As you can see, it's very windy. We've had rain. The free practice session earlier on had rain and wind. But with the wind being so strong, it is kind of drying the track out quite a lot. So it'd be very interesting to see what the drivers choose to put in terms of tyres onto their cars. So very good morning to you. Welcome to Brands Hatch. There you can see the wind is still playing an effect, that's for sure, as brollies are being blown about aplenty. As I say, in terms of track conditions, it will probably be advantageous because what it will do, it will dry things out. There you can see the car of our championship leader, one Mr. René Rast, about to take to the track. This qualifying session, important for him. He's scored 19 points in qualifying this season. You see in qualifying, P1, 2 and 3 get 3, 2, 1 points accordingly. And there is Bruno Spangler making his way out onto the track. So just ahead of Timo Glock. There goes Bruno Spangler. This is the car of Jake Dennis, with work going on to the Jake Dennis car just ahead of qualifying, as you can see. So they're working hard on that car. There is the car of Mike Rockenfeller, making its way down the pit lane and awaiting the green light. There is the British superstar, of which there are a number in DTM this season, but that is Jamie Green, the Audi driver, in car number 53. Jamie Green then, final stages of preparation, and there you can see the Hankook slick tyres. So we can't yet see what tyres are going to go on the René Rast car. It'd be interesting to take a shot of the track just so we can see what the track is like. We had the W Series out on track for their free practice session a short while ago. Audi Sport Team Rosberg, run of course by Arno Zenzen, and the drivers that Arno is responsible for, René Rast, championship leader, and that is the car that you're looking at there, and of course Jamie Green. Well, somebody running very, very hard down the pit lane there. I can see there on the Sheldon van der Linde car, that's on wet weather tyres. So too is the car of Marco Wittmann. So I can identify from a couple of the cars that we've got wet weather tyres. Perhaps there's a problem with the car of Bruno Spangler, and that's why that engineer was running so quickly down the pit lane. He's also on the wet weather tyres, the Hankook wet weather tyres, you can see from the blue indicator. And so too is Philip Eng, so too Marco Wittmann. But on slick tyres...
Repeat about the slicks, I didn't hear that.
I think Mike Rockenfeller is on slick tyres.
At least one Aston and Rockenfeller on slicks.
Well, that confirms it then on team radio then. At least one of the Aston Martins. And also Mike Rockenfeller is on slick tyres.
This is 1 minute to start off the session. I'll let you know in a couple of seconds to find out the engine.
So we are 50 minutes away from, 50 seconds rather, away from the start of this qualifying session. And there you can see the... wet weather tyres coming off the Paul de Resta car.
Because it pushes you into a corner.
Yeah, we want. Make sure map 1, Paul, map 1.
And slick tyres going on to the Paul de Resta car then. So the feedback coming from the engineers then is such that it's going to be worth a gamble to go on those slick tyres initially, rather than starting on the wets. It's absolutely critical, of course, in this very short, sharp qualifying session to make sure you get the best possible time in qualifying that you can. It gives you the best possible grid start. And, of course, critically for the top three in qualifying, those all-important points. And you can see from the graphic just a few moments ago, how many points René Rast has amassed just from qualifying this year, let alone his race results. So the car's making their way out on track now. There is Philipp Eng in the number 25 car. Behind him, Marco Wittmann in the number 11 BMW. There is the Paul de Rest R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage DTM car, ready to make its way out of the garage, and we know that the Paul de Rest car is on slick tyres. Spangler, we know, is on wets. We think so too, Timo Glock and Philipp Eng. Mike Rockenfeller, we're sure, is on slick tyres. And the first 30 seconds of qualifying done and dusted already on this Brands Hatch circuit. And you're welcome to join us for DTM qualifying here live from Brands Hatch, where weather conditions have been very, very changeable already today. Here comes our championship leader, René Rast, then making his way out of the pit lane then. And there is the car of Paul de Rest making its way out onto this Brands Hatch circuit. Of course, here at Brands Hatch for DTM, we use the Grand Prix circuit, the big circuit. It is some 3.9 kilometers, 9 turns, 6 of them right, 3 of them left-handers. Really undulating, that's for sure. There's Ferdinand Habsburg. Now, he had an off in free practice. So Ferdinand Habsburg then met with the one of the unforgiving gravel traps here. And there you can see the Audi Sport Team Phoenix pit wall. And there you can see Mike Rockenfeller really testing the limits of adhesion that are available on the slick tyres around this Brands Hatch circuit. And slick tyres being readied, as you can see, by one of the, I'm pretty sure that's the Marco Wittmann crew, ready to bring Marco in then and get slick tyres onto, no, it's Bruno Spangler. So Spangler in, and the Hankook wets coming off and the slicks going on to the Bruno Spangler car. Bruno Spangler, race winner in DTM this year, DTM champion, of course, on BMW's return to the series. And Bruno Spangler makes his way out of the pit lane now, and we'll head towards Paddock Hill Bend. Paddock Hill Bend is an extraordinary bend, courtesy of Vincent Voss and Thierry Tesson of the WRT Audi team. Did a track ride yesterday on a scooter, and it's pretty scary going down Paddock Hill, which is what René Rast has just done, heading up towards Druids now. So around the Druids Bend goes René Rast. We stay on board with him now as he makes his way down to Graham Hill Bend. Now, I'm not sure whether that's rain coming down or just the spray off the car ahead of him. So René Rast really fighting with the car now as he heads up the Cooper Straight. And then he will make the left-hand turn, which he does right now, and heads up onto what is called the Grand Prix Loop. And Hawthorne Hill awaits for René Rast. Philipp Eng is going really quick at the moment, as you can see. Purple sectors, Sector 1, Sector 2 and Sector 3, which gives him our fastest lap so far, a 1:24.542. 1:24.542, and off goes Timo Glock. In qualifying, Timo Glock has already found the gravel, but manages to get the car back out on track again. Philipp Eng quickest, 1:24.542. Then it's Robin Freins, who was very, very quick in free practice. So here we can see from being on board the rearward-facing camera on Timo Glock's car as he churned up the gravel, but kept his foot on the loud pedal and managed to pull himself out of problems. This is Ferdinand Habsburg, but there you can see he went a long way into the gravel up towards Druids, off the back of Paddock Hill Bend, but kept it all together and managed to keep it going. So the initial fears felt by the team were perhaps unjustified. So we're on board with Timo Glock now, who incidentally is third fastest. Audi Sport Team Rosberg pit wall, and on board with René Rast, who at the moment is, although he's set 3 personal best sectors, he's still only 7th fastest with a time of 1:27.374. 1:27.374 for René Rast. Philipp Eng then with a 1:24.542. We've got 3 drivers in the 1:24s. They are Philipp Eng, Robin Freins and Timo Glock. Followed by Sheldon van der Linde, Marco Wittmann, Jamie Green, René Rast, Joel Eriksson, Mike Rockenfeller and Pietro Fittipaldi rounding out the top 10 currently. So at the moment, no one's setting purple sectors. And René Rast is on the wet weather tyres still. We know a number of drivers are on slick tyres. It would appear that still the quickest times are coming from those drivers still short on weather tyres. Rennie Rast then up Hawthorne Hill now, dipping under the bridge. Holds on to that tyre, and Rennie Rast then, in fairness, on a completely different part of the track, is onto Clearways now. And oh, that is a big off for the number 21 car of Pietro Fittipaldi. So Pietro Fittipaldi on slick tyres, as you can see, has made contact with the barriers. The session has been red flagged, and that was clearly a huge impact. Well, you can see that Pietro Fittipaldi is getting out of the car, so he's perfectly okay, and that's really, really good to see. He walks away from the car, reinforcing the integral safety of these DTM cars. Lots and lots of panel damage, and Jonathan Aberdeen, the other WRT driver, is off as well. So we've lost both of the WRT Audi independent team cars, Jonathan Aberdeen and Pietro Fittipaldi, both in the barriers. What a great shame. There is Pietro Fittipaldi, clearly bitterly disappointed. And Jonathan Aberdeen will be bitterly disappointed as well. So they're surveying the scattering of parts of his Audi. Let's have a look here in replay. Well, it was pointing in the wrong direction. Then it was a huge impact. And of course, left-hand drive, so it was driver's side on, scrubbing the speed sideways, and then the gravel trap doing its job. Well, it should do its job, but as you can see, the car was just flying over the gravel, and that's where the impact was made, and really knocked that car sideways. An awful lot of work to be done on the Pietro Fittipaldi car to get that back out in the race. The WRT team are going to be so busy. Now, here we can see that's the Jonathan Aberdeen incident. Well, as he came out of Clearways to go onto the start-finish straight, instead of turning, the car just carried straight on. So it's a less impactful collision for Jonathan Aberdeen, and well, Pietro Fittipaldi, that was the best thing that we'd seen. He was perfectly okay. Seems to be. Of course, he will be attended to by the medical team just to make sure he's okay, but for all intents and purposes, it looked like he was absolutely fine. However, his Audi, as you can see, is significantly damaged. The impact speed was quite great, and there, various bits of the car are going to be carted away. And as I say, the WRT team are going to have a lot of work to do to get that car race ready again. If they're able to do that, it will be extraordinary. And there is Thierry Tassin then, the team manager for WRT. You can see the frustration. Ironically, both Pietro and Jonathan have been really good qualifiers. And unfortunately for the WRT team, both of them are out of this qualifying session. And that is such a shame. So as I say, they have been supreme qualifiers. There, once again, the team manager, Thierry Tassin, on the phone. Of course, his first and primary concern will be that both Jonathan and Pietro are okay, and from early indications, that would appear to be the case. Certainly saw Pietro getting out of the car, and actually the impact from Jonathan Aberdeen was much less than Pietro Fittipaldi. So best wishes to both of them. And there is what's left of the Pietro Fittipaldi car being hauled away. And there you can see. Now, in fairness, because of the way the cars are built, the tub and the chassis, the body damage looks probably a lot worse than actually it is in terms of the integral, although there's various bits hanging off of it. Perhaps I take that back now, seeing it from a slightly different angle there. Well, as that happened, Philip Eng was quickest, Robin Friends was second fastest, and Timo Glock rounded out the drivers that were in the 124s. There's the Jonathan Aberdeen car being recovered. So the clock has been stopped on the session at 14:37, and there you can see Paul di Resta parks the car up in the R Motorsport garage, and Paul di Resta then is given the iPad to check the data, and Paul di Resta then for R Motorsport, the Aston Martin Vantage DTM car that Paul di Resta drives, along with the likes of Jake Dennis and Ferdinand Habsburg and Danny Juncadella also. Incidentally, the best of the Aston Martins was Paul di Resta, who was P13 when the stoppage occurred. And as the graphics indicate, of course, he won the Sunday race here at Brands Hatch. The other race was won by Danny Juncadella, both of them now Aston Martin drivers, of course. So, no information yet in terms of when the session will restart. There you can see the number 21 car of Pietro Fittipaldi, who incidentally was 8th fastest. 8th fastest for Pietro Fittipaldi. That car is being hauled away. Here we can see it again. The car is sideways, and look at that impact. So, as I mentioned, the gravel trap is supposed to slow the cars down, but he was completely sideways. And if you look now, as the camera picks up, the car is just skirting and flying across the gravel. So the speed is being maintained, and that's why the impact was so great. And tipped the car sideways. It was in the air for a few moments, and Pietro being really rocked about inside the car. But thankfully, Pietro is absolutely fine, and that... the frustration from Thierry Tassin, then the team boss at WRT. We haven't seen any shots of Vincent Voss, the team principal, but WRT have done a brilliant job as the independent Audi team in DTM this year. And as I mentioned, extolling the virtues of both Pietro and Jonathan. Their qualifying has been superb this year. And in fairness, before that incident, Pietro Fittipaldi P8, Jonathan Aberdeen, and there is his car, P11. So they were both doing a good job in terms of qualifying. So the Jonathan Aberdeen car is loaded onto the low loader, and that will be taken away. And we still have 14.5 minutes of the qualifying session to be run when Sven Stopper in race control decides that it is safe to go once again. So Philipp Eng, Robin Freins, Timo Glock, René Rast, the top 4 at the moment. But the top 3, which is critical because of the points haul, Philipp Eng, Robin Freins and Timo Glock. It's really, really good for Philipp Eng in terms of championship points. If it stays this way, of course, he banks 3 points for the fastest qualifying time. Robin Freins would be on 2 points for second fastest, and Timo Glock would be on 1 point for third fastest. But we're still with 14.5 minutes of the qualifying session to go. Don't think necessarily that it will stay that way.
Is it allowed to drink on the red flag?
Sorry, Bruno, repeat.
Is it allowed to drink something during the red flag? I guess so.
I don't think so, to be honest. At the moment, I wouldn't think it's allowed.
So Bruno inside the car then, asking if he can take a drink or not. So some barrier repairs going on then. Team working very hard to get the barriers back into order before the session can be restarted. Looks like it's pretty much completed, to be honest with you. Digger there with the catch fencing. Just perhaps got to be secured and then we'll be good to go, perhaps. So just watching them hard at work then. And there is the Jonathan Aberdeen car, which, as you can see, is significantly less damaged than the Pietro Fittipaldi car. Being taken down the pit lane. Wind continues to pick up. There is Vincent Voss, team principal of WRT, along with his team manager, Thierry Tassin. And there is the Jonathan Aberdeen car. Well, both drivers had set a reasonable time in qualifying. P8 for Pietro Fittipaldi and P11 for Jonathan Aberdeen. And there is Jake Dennis. I'll question him about this a bit later. He looks really, really menacing. Jake Dennis, where is he in qualifying at the moment? P16 for Jake. So Eng, Freins, Glock in the points-paying positions in quali so far. And let's take super slow-mos of the top 3. This is Philipp Eng, and as you can see, fastest time has been set on the Hankook wet weather tyres, because Philipp Eng is quickest with a 1:24.542. Second fastest is Robin Freins, who was quickest in free practice earlier on today. But we continue to watch the Philipp Eng car doing a very, very good job in qualifying with a 1:24.542, a clear 2/10 quicker than Robin Freins in P2. And Robin Freins about a 10th quicker than Timo Glock, who is in P3. Now, that is the Jonathan Aberdeen car. One of the two WRT cars, of course, that ended up in the barriers and brought a curtailment to this session. So, 4th place in the Drivers' Championship is Philipp Eng. And 3 points will be very valuable for him in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Championship leader, of course, is René Rast. And there is the Pietro Fittipaldi car on its way back to the pit lane. Both WRT drivers out of this qualifying session, Len. Let's hear from the team principal of WRT. We're going to hear from Vincent Voss in just a few moments' time. And he will be explaining exactly how it feels for WRT, the independent Audi team, who are both of their cars with an awful lot of work for the WRT engineers to do. Now, as I say, looking at it from that angle, a lot of it is body damage, but the impact was quite great. And inevitably what that will mean is because the cars are going to have to be worked on following the qualifying session, we know that they are going to be off the back of the grid. So let's find out exactly how it feels to be the team principal of a car whose both cars have been taken out of qualifying. This is Vincent Voss with Verena.
Yeah, so obviously now we need to find out, Vincent Voss, what happened, and first of all, how are the drivers? Are they both okay?
Well, this is the most important. Both drivers are fine. What happened, we do not know yet, but likely, we were pushing on that lap because it was probably the last lap on slicks before to put the wet, so the track was getting more and more slippery, and yeah. Unfortunately, both cars went out on almost the same corner. So.
Yeah, very tricky situation here in Brands Hatch. I think Fittipaldi really had a heavy impact, so I guess his car won't be ready for the race. What about the other car? Do you think maybe some magic will do?
Well, for the other car, let's hope. We will push hard. And we should be able to repair. Let's see.
We'll cross our fingers. Thank you very much, Vincent Voss. Back to you.
Well done, Verena. Thank you very much for getting us Vincent Voss then. And as Verena has intimated, it looks like the damage on the Pietro Fittipaldi car will be too great for them to be able to repair before the race. Jonathan Aberdeen, less so, I would say. I would think there's more chance of Jonathan Aberdeen's car being readied, but in any event, the engineers from WRT with a lot of work to do. They're a great team, that's for sure, and they will work very, very hard. So, well, we will see when it comes to race time what they've been able to achieve. Here we can see it again. So this is Jonathan Aberdeen, and as you can see, that impact was much less than the impact suffered by Pietro Fittipaldi. And there is René Rast, who we're on board with, just following, and he can see the car go into the barriers there. So there is the Jonathan Aberdeen car. We're being told that the session will restart in around about 5 minutes' time. So barrier repairs done, both cars recovered, and the session will restart in just about 5 minutes' time. And there will be 14.5 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. There, confirmation of that restart at 11:13 local time here in Brands Hatch. And the session then, if you are just joining us, the session has been stopped because, very, very oddly, two cars from the same team, both from the independent Audi team, WRT, crashed at exactly the same time. Not together, two completely separate incidents, both making contact with the barriers and bringing a red flag out on that qualifying session. Both drivers, to the best of our knowledge, are perfectly okay, both Jonathan Aberdeen and Pietro Fittipaldi. But Pietro Fittipaldi's car is hugely damaged. Jonathan Aberdeen less so. There's some doubt as to whether Pietro Fittipaldi's car can be repaired in time for the race. Jonathan Aberdeen, we think, can. So Philipp Eng is going to make his way out onto the pit lane to be first in the queue. There, Rennie Rast being readied as well. There's been a further shower during the stoppage, which means that pretty much all the drivers, I think, are on wet weather tyres now, the Hankook wet weather tyres. There's Jamie Green to the left of your picture in car number 53. So we are awaiting the restart of this session then, and as I say, there's 14.5 minutes remaining in the qualifying session, and Jake Dennis and Ferdinand Habsburg making their way down the pit lane now, avoiding the recovery truck. And that particular recovery truck, I think, was the recovery truck that was bringing back the number 27 car of Jonathan Aberdeen, and let's hear from him now. He is with Verena.
So I've got a hold of Jonathan Aberdeen. Jonathan, that was really, really tricky. From your point of view, maybe you can just talk us through the situation. I mean, you were on slicks and it started to rain, or what was the problem?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much how it looked on slicks, quite tricky condition. Obviously, it's quite difficult on this track because there's no margin for error. My engineer told me on the radio that I had to push now because the rain was coming, and obviously just did that a little bit too much. So yeah, my mistake. Hopefully we can get the car ready for the race.
And unfortunately also Fittipaldi also lost his car. I think just nearby also it was a tricky situation. I guess you didn't hear about it, but it's very sad. I mean, losing 2 cars. But now do you think your car is going to be intact for the race?
I think we'll have to see. I have confidence in my mechanics that they'll get it ready, but I'm not quite sure how big the damage is yet. So let's see how it goes.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much. Let's see. Let's cross our fingers. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Verena. There's Vincent Voss then walking into the shot there to just give Jonathan Aberdeen a hug. Jonathan Aberdeen, what a humble young man. My mistake, I put my hands up. He said, my engineer said to push because the rain was coming. I was on slick tyres, and clearly I just pushed a little bit too hard. Well, the WR team will work very, very hard to get Jonathan Aberdeen's car back out again. And let's hope that, some good fortune comes the way of Pietro Fittipaldi's car as well, and they're able to get that out too. So, restart in exactly 1 minute's time. Marco Wittmann is at the head of the queue then. Marco Wittmann is currently 6th fastest, having posted a time of 1:26, 1:43. And in fairness, just as I say that, 1 minute, the restart has been pushed back now to 11:15. So we are now 2 3/4 minutes away from the restart. There is Ferdinand Von Habsburg, one of the R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage DTM drivers there. Confirmation then that the restart now is going to be at 11:15. So 2.5 minutes away. And the driver's already queued up in the pit lane, and as you can see, the wind is still playing havoc here. Hello, and welcome to Brands Hatch. Some of the race fans that have made their way in really challenging weather conditions into the track. And there you can see the weather radar being looked at by the teams all the time to ascertain exactly what weather conditions they're going to get here at Brands Hatch. And because the wind is so strong, it really is blowing the rain in or blowing the rain away, depending upon which particular moment you happen to be out there. And there, one of the trees really blowing a hoolie here at Brands Hatch at the moment. There is the Jonathan Aberdeen car being pushed back into the WRT garage, and a lot of work for those WRT engineers to do to get that car ready for the race. There's only a couple of hours, really, that they have to work on that car to get it ready for the race to come this afternoon. So, as the session was stopped, it was Philip Eng that was the quickest driver, 1:24.542, followed by Robin Freins with a 1:24.763. Then it was Timo Glock with a 1:24.881. The top 3 in qualifying, banking 3-2-1 points, and of course the P1-2-3 positions on the grid for the race to come this afternoon. There we can see Jake Dennis and Ferdinand Habsburg in the R Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage DTM cars. Home race, of course, for Aston Martin, and a lot of fans here to support Jake Dennis, particularly English driver, Paul di Resta, Scottish, of course, and a number of other drivers from the UK as well in the DTM lineup, including one Mr. Jamie Green, who is currently 7th fastest. So that's the shot of all the pit perches then along the pit wall. And the first one of those is from the Marco Wittmann team. You can, just to the right-hand side of your picture, you can just see the Marco pit board. So now we are 25 seconds away from the restart. Just 10 seconds away from seeing the light go green. There's Bart Mampay then from the RBM team of BMW. Racing Bart Mampay. And the light goes green now. Well, right on cue, out comes Marco Wittmann. Followed by Bruno Spangler. Then it is Timo Glock, 3 BMWs at the head of the queue. In fact, I think it's 4 because I think Philipp Eng follows Timo Glock as he lights up the rear tyres and gets it sideways. Make that 5 BMWs because Sheldon van der Linde is there as well. Car number 31, make it 6 because there's Joel Eriksson. And here comes championship leader René Rast then in his Audi car. And the clock ticks down. This is going to be a short, sharp second part to qualifying. Ordinarily, during qualifying throughout the DTM season this year, I think it's only once where we've seen an improvement in the second part of qualifying. The early laps have been the quickest laps. I think today we might see quicker laps in the second part of qualifying. The qualifying session punctuated, of course, by the incident for Jonathan Aberdeen and Pietro Fittipaldi that took them both out. So we're on board with René Rast now, who makes his way along Cooper Straight. Big left-hand turn now to head up towards Hawthorne Hill. We stay on board with René Rast as we start our trek around the GP loop here at Brands Hatch. So Hawthorne Hill and then Hawthorne Bend approaches, which is turn number 5. And then onto the Derek Milner straight, short, sharp straight before the Westfield Bend, which is the right-hander, which is turn number 6. And then back flat on the throttle, then through Dingle Dell before the Sheen curve. And then again back on the throttle before the left-hander, which is Stirling's Bend, turn number 8. And then a big blast as we head down towards Clearways. He makes an adjustment to the brake bias. And here is Clearways, turn number 9. This is where we saw Jonathan Aberdeen and Pietro Fittipaldi off as René Rast is about to complete the lap then through Clark Curve and heading on the Brabham Straight then to break the beam and go for a hot lap now. We stay on board with René Rast through Paddock Hill Bend, which is a real cliff. And there is Jamie Green into the pit lane. Now, Jamie Green is on wet weather tyres, but Jamie Green is going to go onto slicks. So he's obviously done an outlap and decided that he thinks he can get away with slicks. Timo Glock has gone quickest through Sector 1. So Jamie Green then. Home race, of course, for Jamie Green. Lives just outside Leicester. We're on board with Jake Dennis then from Nuneaton in the UK. Jake Dennis quicker than anyone through Sector 1 for our Motorsport Aston Martin. Totally top driver, Jake Dennis. Absolutely giving the Aston Martin everything he can. Marco Wittmann's quicker than anyone through Sector 2. He's done a personal best through Sector 1. He was P6. Marco Wittmann improves to P1 with a 1:23.279, having taken 1.263 seconds out. Here comes Timo Glock. And just look at this time from Jake Dennis. So Timo Glock goes fastest now. Is Jake Dennis going to go quicker than anyone? He's done quicker than anyone in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Here he comes then, heading to break the timing beam for our Motorsport Aston Martin. Jake Dennis is P1, a 1:21.567, a blistering lap from Jake Dennis. Absolutely supreme. So Jake Dennis very nearly a full second clear of Philipp Eng's 1:22.774. René Rast gets very sideways. Jake Dennis needs to get past this Audi. And you can see Jake Dennis on the slick tyres then. Sheldon van der Linde's done a personal best through Sector 1, you can see from the green box. But Jake Dennis, despite the fact he had to get by René Rast, has gone quicker still. He is on an absolute charge here in qualifying. So, purple box, Sector 1 for Jake Dennis. Quicker than anyone. Sheldon van der Linde, personal best through Sector 1. Sector 2 was not brilliant for him. Can Jake Dennis turn Sector 2 purple as well? He does. He's 6/10 down on his previous best time. So Jake Dennis then into the third and final sector here. His previous best, a 1:21.567. He heads for home. What can Jake Dennis do? He can do 1.2 seconds better, a 1:20.362 for Jake Dennis. Absolutely flying. What a brilliant lap from Jake Dennis in our motorsport in the Aston Martin Vantage DTM car. Philip Eng back into the garage then. Wow, what a couple of flying laps from Jake Dennis. Rennie Rast goes on to slicks now. So I promised you that the order would change, and change it has. It's Jake Dennis, Sheldon van der Linde and Paul de Resta third fastest, with Ferdinand Habsburg fourth fastest. Here comes Jamie Green then. He's on slick tyres, we know, we saw him come in. Personal best through sector 1, overall best through sector 2. Here's Jamie Green to break the beam, a 1:22.112. He's second fastest now, pushing Sheldon van der Linde now down to P3. I don't believe this. Jake Dennis has just posted 2 quicker than anyone since Sector 1 and Sector 2. He is absolutely flying. We're keeping our eye on the graphics here as we watch Jamie Green, Jake Dennis, 1:19.482. Here comes Ferdinand Habsburg, a 1:28.68. We've got Aston Martin P1 and P2. With, what do we got, 8 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Absolutely brilliant driving. Weather conditions playing into the hands of our motorsport and Aston Martin. Jamie Green has now gone quickest of anyone. That's Dr. Florian Kamelger then, the team principal of our motorsport. Had a wonderful chat with him yesterday, and he will be really, really pleased with what his drivers are doing out there. Jamie Green is on a quick one though. 2 quicker than anyone's sectors. Here comes Jamie Green. Could this be the new P1? Yes, it could. A 1:19.113. So 3 and a bit tenths out of the Jake Dennis time, but Jake's on another flyer. And absolutely on another flyer. He just closed his sector 2 quicker than anybody. Jake Dennis is flying here. Clearways. He's got so much confidence in the R Motorsport Aston Martin car. And Jake Dennis goes quicker still. A 1:18.043. The time is coming down in chunks now as the track conditions come to everybody. And we've got 7 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. It's Jake Dennis, Jamie Green, Ferdinand Habsburg, Danny Juncadella is fourth fastest. Then it's Sheldon van der Linde and Paul de Resta. So you have got Jake Dennis, P1, Ferdinand Habsburg, P3, Danny Juncadella, P4, Paul de Resta, P6, and Dennis has gone quicker again through Sector 1. Wow, what a qualifying session this is. So the number 23 car of Danny Juncadella we could see there. Jamie Green, his first sector was a bit shabby, but the middle sector was very quick. And third sector letting him down a bit as well. Danny Juncadella has posted 2 personal bests. And he crosses the timing line and improves a further 3 places to go to P3. Remember, Danny Juncadella, a race winner here in DTM last year. But Jake Dennis has done purple sectors 1 and sector 2. Here he comes across the timing line. And he lost in the third sector, but he still improved. A 1:17.286. So, the reason I mentioned the fact that he was white in sector 3 is that there was presumably still some improvement to come. Jamie Green, PB, sector 1. Rennie Rast, PB, sector 2 now. But it's the purple sectors that are critical. 1:17.286 at the moment. What have we got? Still got 5 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in this qualifying session. What a session it has been. So Jamie Green into the pit lane now. Pit lane speed limiter on. We're on board with Rennie Rast. And there is Sheldon van der Linde, who crosses the timing line. Here comes Jamie Green then to round out the final sector. You'll see the orange car round clearways. There's Nico Muller. There's Mike Rockenfeller. There is Paul de Resta. Just wait for it. The orange Audi will come round. We go away to another shot. Not to worry. There is Ferdinand Habsburg, who's done personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. And crosses the timing line and goes to third fastest. So it's Jake Dennis. Philip Eng has now gone second fastest. It's Jake Dennis, Philip Eng, Rennie Rast, Ferdinand Habsburg. We're on board with Rennie Rast now. Only 2 drivers in the 117s, and that's Jake Dennis and Philip Eng. And we've got 4 minutes remaining as Rennie Rast now banks 2 purple sectors. So Rennie Rast, who's currently third fastest, is on a mission here. Already has gained 19 points in qualifying in this season so far. Could this be from P3 to P1 as Rennie Rast heads to break the timing beam? 1:16.124, taking a 1.16 margin out of Jake Dennis's time. So Rennie Rast on an absolute flyer. And now Danny Juncadella goes second fastest for our Motorsport Aston Martin. Lloyd Duval is third fastest. Nico Muller fourth fastest. Then it's Mike Rockenfeller. Then it's Jake Dennis. Here comes Robin Freins. Now bear in mind, Robin Freins was really quick in the FP session. What can he find in the final knockings of this qualifying? As Rennie Rast improves through Sector 1 once again, we're watching the car of Robin Freins. So Robin Freins then, personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. But Rennie Rast is the car that we're watching because he's gone quicker than anyone through Sector 2 as well. Here comes Robin Freins to close out his lap and goes from P11 to P3. And we're on board with Rennie Rast then, who's going to improve still further, a 1:16.124. And it's now a 1:15.723, and he lost time in the final sector. So we're into the 1:15s now. Sheldon van der Linde goes second fastest. No, he doesn't, because Lloyd Duval just beats him. And Danny Juncadella just beats Timo Glock. So it's P3 for Danny Juncadella, P4 now for Nico Muller. 2 minutes remaining. Wow, what a quali session. There is Mike Rockenfeller, who's currently fourth fastest. So the order is Audi, Aston Martin, Audi, best BMW, Timo Glock. Here comes Marco Wittmann. He's done personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2. He was P16 in terms of qualifying, but he elevates himself from P16 to P9 and has time to go for 1 more lap, maybe 2 actually. So we're in the closing stages. Here comes Jake Dennis. Jake Dennis, who for some period of this qualifying session was right at the top of the chart, is going to go. Now this will be Jake Dennis's final lap. Jake Dennis now is P12. There's Lloyd Duval, who's second fastest. Danny Juncadella has just gone through. Danny Juncadella at the moment is the fastest of the Aston Martins at P7. Here comes Mike Rockenfeller, and we have 42 seconds of the session remaining. As Paul de Resta crosses the timing line, it's a P5 for Paul de Resta, and he can do another lap. Here's Bruno Spangler. It's P12 for Bruno Spangler. He can do another lap. We're on board with Marco Wittmann, who's done personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2, and so too has Jamie Green. So Marco Wittmann just ahead of Jamie Green on track. And a P1 for Marco Wittmann with a 1:15.654. We're into the 100ths now. He's taken very nearly 7 100ths out of the previous best time. So it's Wittmann, Rast, Duval, Freins, van der Linde, de Resta. Jamie Green runs wide. That may cost him a couple of valuable 100ths. So Green and Wittmann don't improve through Sector 1. And this is the final stages. Well, the qualifying session is over now. The clock has counted down to 0, but anyone that's on a lap can continue that lap, but no one is setting purple sectors. Paul di Resta, 7th quickest. I don't think this is going to be an improvement. It is. So it's an improvement by 3 places because he pulled it all together in the 2nd and 3rd sectors. So brilliant qualifying from Paul di Resta, who at the moment is P4. It's only Marco Wittmann who is still out on track right at the sharp end of qualifying. Joel Eriksson crosses the line. Here comes Philipp Eng. Here comes Jamie Green. So it's Marco Wittmann, René Rast, Loic Duval, and
guys.
Paul di Resta.
Yeah, pole position. Good job.
Marco Wittmann, Mega Marco, following an astounding drive in
Like
Assen.
usual, remember use B-stick.
He is
Switch
top of the chart.
Off the car completely, ignition main, get rated. And congratulations, excellent driving, pole position.
Marco Wittmann, of course, really chasing René Rast in the Drivers' Championship. And Nico Müller, for that matter, as well. Nico Müller is down there P8, so a 4th-row start for Nico Müller this afternoon when it comes to the race. But a front-row start for Marco Wittmann and René Rast. And Loic Duval will be behind. And a 2nd-row start also for Aston Martin R Motorsport with Paul di Resta. Very good job in qualifying. So the drivers being weighed then. Well, a qualifying session full of drama, that's for sure. As the sun begins to shine on us here at Brands Hatch, by way of a change. Here then, confirmation of the qualifying for Brands Hatch Race 11. Marco Wittmann, 1:15.654. The only other driver in the 1:15 is René Rast, P2 for him. Then it's Loic Duval and Paul di Resta with a brilliant qualifying for Aston Martin. He goes from P4. Then it's Robin Freins, Sheldon van der Linde, Jake Dennis, Nico Müller, Timo Glock, and Danny Juncker-Deyer. Ahead of Philipp Eng, Mike Rockenfeller, Jamie Green, Bruno Spangler, Joel Eriksson, Ferdinand Habsburg, and of course Pietro Fittipaldi and Jonathan Aberdeen we saw out of qualifying following their incident during that qualifying session. Jens Marquardt, the BMW Motorsport Director here at Brands Hatch this weekend then. And he'll be pretty pleased with Marco Wittmann's performance, that's for sure. Super slow-mos of the top 3 then. P3, Loic Duval. It's P2 for René Rast. And P1 for Mega Marco Wittmann. A 1:15.654 gives him pole position. So Marco Wittmann then, Mega Marco, he's done it again. It's pole position for him here at Brands Hatch. He's with Verena.
And a big whoop whoop for Mega Marco. Congratulations once again, pole setter. You getting used to this?
It feels definitely good. Yeah, but it was super tricky today. I mean, starting under wet conditions, you know, but it was not full wet. It was like half-half. Was not sure to go on slicks. And to be honest, on the wets, we were not looking that great, at least on this drying track. But then on the slicks, our time came. The car was amazing. It was a tricky lap because I had one Aston in the forest in sector 2 in front of me, and I was not sure if he gonna let me by, you know, and that is always tricky if you know you are on a good lap. actually he did then. He let me by, so it was good. And yeah, to be on pole is always good, especially on a track like here where it's where overtaking is pretty difficult. But still, I mean, we saw many races this year so far with overtakings. So looking forward to it.
So thank you so much, Marco, and back to the commentator.
Well, he did a great job and has put it on pole position. Marco Wittmann then will be going from P1 for the race this afternoon. Interesting what he was saying about the car wasn't really there in the wet conditions. It was kind of half and half, and as the track dried out, then it really came to him. Taking a look at some of the shots then of the engineers at work in the pit lane, the wheel gun going on then to remove the Hankook wets on the Jamie Green car. And Jamie Green is under investigation for potentially blocking someone during qualifying as well. Jamie Green finished P13 in the end in terms of his qualifying effort. So here comes the grid in full for the race to come this afternoon. Marco Wittmann and René Rast, P1 and P2 on the grid for Brands Hatch, race 1. Loïc Duval and Paul de Resta. A brilliant qualifying from Paul de Resta. And he has Loïc Duval alongside him on the second row. On the third row, it's Robin Freins and Sheldon van der Linde. Then we find Jake Dennis and Nico Muller. Jake Dennis leading the qualifying session for some period of time, ahead of Timo Glock and Danny Junkadea, going from P9 and P10 on the grid. That's the fifth row. The sixth row contains Philip Eng and Mike Rockenfeller. To the seventh row, where we find Jamie Green and Bruno Spangler. Then it's Joel Eriksson and Ferdinand Von Habsburg, go from P15 and P16. And Pietro Fittipaldi and Jonathan Aberdeen, of course, will be starting from the very back of the grid because they crashed out of qualifying. Let's go back to Verena, down in the pit lane for us.
And I'm here with René Rast. That was really a very, very tricky qualifying, but I guess you're pretty happy with your position.
Yeah, very happy. In these circumstances, it can go wrong, and we basically played it safe. Had the right strategy. Maybe I was a bit too early on the slick tires, but still P2, very happy, 2 points for the championship. Marco is beside me, so that's going to be a tricky situation, but let's see how it ends up.
It's definitely going to be very exciting for us. So best of luck for the race in a bit. Thank you very much, René. And yeah, it was a huge gamble with the tires. Let's see what the race brings. You don't want to miss it, that's for sure. So now here are the highlights of the qualifying, and make sure to tune in later on for the race. See you then.